Call the meeting to order and let's go. Item B, Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, public comment. No one in the audience, anything on Zoom chat? Or Devin?
I don't believe
No.
so, but I'll run and check with Devin.
No hands. Okay, light item D, I need a motion to approve the minutes from September 17th, 2024.
So moved.
Second.
Any conversation, questions, changes? Okay, all those in favor state by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Any correspondence, Kathy?
No.
Kat, anything?
Nope.
Okay, so we're gonna go right into F.
Want me to give a little
Yeah,
synopsis?
please.
All right, so we have KBE out in the hallway, so they're gonna join us. You have your questions in front of you. Your name is next to the questions. So you can go through and everyone has, I think, one question to ask. We're gonna keep it to a half hour. We could ask some follow-up questions. Then KBE is gonna leave and then Scope Construction's gonna come in. We're gonna do the same thing.
Okay.
Then we're gonna go through quickly our new business items. We're not gonna have really any discussion about the two until we go into executive session. We're gonna go into executive session. We're gonna have a sandwich. We're gonna talk about the two groups. And then we're gonna come out of executive session and our objective is to make some motions to keep this process moving.
Sounds good.
All right.
All right, let's bring in KBE Building Corporation.
We already got the proposals. Yes.
Hi,
Hi.
how are you? Okay, welcome. Maybe if you could just introduce yourselves to us and then we'll take it from there.
I'm Marvin Wilson, I'm the Director of Quality Control and Compliance for KB.
I'm Jim Culkin, Chief Operating Officer and a Principal at KB.
I'm Mark Staples, Superintendent for KB. Tony Miancini, Project Manager. And Jackie Miss, Estimator.
I didn't catch your name.
Bogdan, B-O-G-D-A-N, last name is J-A-C-H-I-M-I-C.
Okay, excellent. All right, welcome to the committee for the interview for this process. I'm going to just start it right off and start asking questions. I'm going to ask one question and then each board member will ask a question of you guys and we'll take it from there. Okay. Here's their first question. Please elaborate on your firm's experience as a general contractor on projects of similar size, scope, and complexity.
I can start off. We've been in business for 65 years, 25 years here in the town of Farmington. Done a variety of buildings. I know we provided some information as a follow-up. Chris and Russ had asked us after our scope review. But as far as renovations and active campus projects, we probably have 24 type of projects very similar. We've done a lot of work at some of the local universities, which have similar, I would say similar. This building's a little bit older, but a lot of similarities as far as the restoration and the trickiest part of this building obviously is going to be the active campus part of it. You know, with the one lane in, one lane out type of deal, just to make sure deliveries get where they need to be. But we do have a lot of experience with those working on CCSU, Connecticut College, UConn, a lot of different sites where we have a lot of different, a lot of things going on campus.
Okay,
Can you please describe your current workload and the capacity of your firm to take on a project of this size?
Annually, we do somewhere around $300 million a year. This fits in very nicely for us. We have people available right away. I don't know what our active workload is right now, but it's probably somewhere in the $200 to $220 million range right now. But we do have people available. We anticipated this job was going to be starting either at the end of 2024, beginning of 2025, and it works out really well for us.
All right. Thank you guys for coming in. It's important to the committee to complete this project on time and on budget. Describe your firm's approach to accomplishing the project schedule and controlling the cost of work. What is your change order cost control process? And based on your experience with renovation projects, do you anticipate any or unforeseen issues? I know it's a big one, so we can always revisit it. if We need to go back like 3 steps.
We put together a presentation, so it's right exactly what Tony was going to speak about. So it's right
So
on.
on vertical scope items, we look at the long lead items, so getting it on schedule, getting in early packages, getting in early demo bay may be key. Driving to the schedule for the rest of the project. Some of the stuff that we identified were mason restoration was critical, window replacement, different details, different sections of the buildings. The MEP systems, obviously, they fit, fair ceiling heights, long lead procurement items such as panels, windows, elevators, RTUs, HVAC equipment, and things of that nature. I don't know if anybody else wants to.
One of the things we do is we put together a schedule very early on, identify those items. So we talk directly with the design team and say, here's when these submittals are going to be due, just to make sure that we have the process down. What is the lead time? Somewhere around 16 or 18 weeks is the longest lead time. And we build backwards and say, when does this need to be released in order to have it available? And that way we really have schedule down. The thing with our, your question on change management, one of the things we look at, and it's one of the reasons Mark is with us here, is with the different projects that we've done, we bring all those lessons to our next project. So anytime you do a restoration project, there's always something a little bit different about every job because the older buildings are never all built the same. So Mark can probably talk a little bit more about the window replacement piece, but we just finished a project down in Maryland with a building similar age. And maybe Mark, you want to just take a few high points?
So kind of a common hurdle that we come across on these renovation jobs, especially when we're related to buildings. So the building itself, we make some assumptions about what that construction is around each window opening. Never happens to be the same throughout that whole building, but probably can tell you as well, right? So what we typically do is we try to investigate as early as possible, get some windows removed, figure out what that construction is around the window opening. What we find a lot of times is the construction changes, maybe the width of the wall changes, the R-hose sometimes change, blocking that we expect to use sometimes has been compromised by water intrusion. Tony and I run into jobs where blocking isn't there that we expect to be there, and now we're trying to figure out how we're going to back in the windows. So we try to get through all of that early, so we can work with the design team to try to limit any impacts that it has on the budget and the schedule. Try to work that process through the submittal tool shop drawing process instead of going out.
Just one of the numbers, just to correct you on, there are some generators 30 to 35 weeks, and special panel, but also 31 weeks lead time. So those kind of things we factor in that procurement log and schedule to make sure we're on it before it becomes critical.
And do you anticipate any unforeseen things that we're not aware of or you've experienced in the past?
You know, obviously we don't anticipate anything, but as far as once you start opening up and doing your demolition, that's when you really need to start your coordination process with your MEPs, your mechanical, electrical, plumbing, making sure all the routes are going to work. So having those coordination drawings very early in the process is going to take that unknown out. So you don't want to put something up only to realize you're not going to get your ceiling heights. So you want to do all that pre-planning very early in the project before it becomes critical. It helps with schedule and really you want to uncover anything that could be unknown, because obviously if we can't see it, we don't know it's not there. So it's one of those, getting that early means you only put it in once, which avoids any changes.
Just one more comment, in our sub-selection, we pay attention to the critical masonry restorations and critical. You guys will all know our sub that we selected, very experienced this type of work. Those are the kind of things that go into trying to avoid as many of those chambers. They got experience, they know what they're doing, type of work. So, our selection process.
Excellent.
Okay, just, you said you don't anticipate changes, but this building's 100 years old. I mean, based on your experience, you should anticipate problems, right? I mean, and what have you experienced in the past with buildings of this age?
Well, those are the things that Mark mentioned is details such as anytime you deal with a brick building, it's what your backup is. From the sections that we did see and some of the things that were exposed, you have the terracotta tiles beneath as far as the brick backup. Those are interesting because they work great until the integrity goes on them. And then you have soft spots throughout the wall. Depending on how they ran the electrical lines, the plumbing lines, things like that, if any of that was compromised, you may have to look at replacing some of those sections. You have a section that calls for underpinning in the back for the elevator shaft. Have to see how that foundation was put together and how that foundation is intact right now after all these years before you look to underpin it with any kind of certainty. So those are kind of things up front really to, you know, we talked about this in our scope review a little bit with Russ and Chris. Having those conversations real early on. So if there is another option, we don't just say, what do we do? Let's come up with a solution when we see it, so it doesn't become critical from the beginning.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. It's no secret that there's a new high school up at the top of the hill. It's the worst kept secret we have in town. But it's a beautiful high school and it's been a long time in the planning. And we're looking for peaceful coexistence here. And so you describe, first of all, what your experience you've had working adjacent to an active school grounds while school is in session, and what control measures that you would anticipate to put in place to minimize the disturbance. There's a lot of movement of people and cars and everything else if you're going to be working at the same time.
Do we have access to the
Yeah.
PowerPoint?
Yes.
Yeah,
I can-
we actually put together a logistics plan.
So, yeah, I was gonna,
So actually, if you go back one, this is probably pretty good. Tony.
yeah, so I was just gonna, we didn't get to the slides, but this is very similar to your project. So we did Barnard, Hall at Central. The main road is to the right. You're looking at the photo here. The project was the box out in yellow. This one is- So all kinds of deliveries, parking garage, student accessibility to the right, construction right to the right, main roads to the right, and on top of the screen. For us, site logistics is critical, coordinating with surrounding buildings, facilities managers, and really knowing your schedule, deliveries, times that you guys are the busiest, and working our subcontractor deliveries and our access around those times. You guys have dates, they're voting dates, you have holidays, you have exam days or special town meetings. Those are the kind of things we coordinate around. Heavy communication coordination, a lot of signage and updates and putting you in to know, everybody in the know when our critical timeframes are, when we have big crane picks, those kind of things. But signage and coordination, and keeping you guys involved in the process is the key to that success.
Yeah, you want to go to, can you go to the next slide, please?
Yeah, I'm just gonna also have you move the microphones closer. They're not being
sorry.
picked up.
Like this site here, and looking at the site, when I came to the site and walked it the other day. And going around, like they said, the traffic that you have coming off of Route 4 and up Montauk, it's gonna be tight, so the biggest part is working with you guys on signage. To know which direction for subs and deliveries to go for our site and onto your site. And also our deliveries and the time frames, so they also know what they have. So if you see the red arrows, that's how we're looking to come in and we go down to the end. I believe based on what I've seen, you're probably looking to have your parking lot there and down at that end done before the end of the year. From what I can tell, on the speed that they're going. So the thought was to utilize that end as the staging and parking for ourselves, to put the fence gate around the site with the gate right there at the corner where the parking area is and the roadway going in front of the town hall. That way we can distinguish that apart from everybody on site, see what we have for our subs.
And one other thing, to your question, isolate the project from the rest of the surrounding buildings and traffic.
Sure.
That would be our goal.
One thing that needs to be kept into consideration is there relocated tennis courts are back there.
Yep.
So they're separate from the main body of the building. But while you're going to be working, I'm assuming that in the spring, the team is going to be playing,
Those,
but we're also open to the public. So the public has access to those tennis courts. So I think that's an important consideration.
guys, to possibly put a tent fence in between the two. So this way here it goes around the end of the building, kind of the way the tent fence sits right up there right now that they have along the pavement around that way.
Mhm.
Same type of setup. So this way here, it keeps everybody away from the tennis courts in those natures. That's where, like, you were saying about scheduling and understanding what you guys have, because I'm sure you don't want us here making noise when you have a tennis match.
Well, it's also the risk of the team walking from their
Well, that's.
locker rooms
Yeah.
by the site,
Yeah.
through the site.
That's
to
why
get-
I'm looking to put the tent fence all the way around the site. So
Okay.
this way here, it keeps them from going in, isolate us.
So they could. If we fence this off here, put a gate, put a fence down here, and they can access these courts from this lot here. That way, exactly what you're describing is controlled. Because this kind of sets it up really well, because it's a dead end.
Mhm.
And having a gate right here, obviously they have the hill here, but you have a fence all the way down. You're isolated from everything, especially
Right.
during the demo abatement and the exterior restoration.
Yep.
Like the next slide. This is how tight it is. So that's one piece of equipment. If you had multiple scissor lifts going around the building, you can't access this. So having that cordoned off is gonna be the best way to isolate us.
Mhm. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you.
But everyone who goes through safety orientation on site will have a sticker on their hard hat identifying who they are, what company they're with, and when they had orientation. So if they're found anywhere else on campus, we'll know about it. So we make sure that people stay within where they're supposed to go. And as a Avon resident, but 3 miles up the road, I know how Route 4 gets. So we're gonna have to schedule our deliveries probably midday. And obviously not at 7 o'clock in the morning, because they'll never get in. So
They'll get in at midday. At midday, but they'll be waiting.
Could you tell us, what was approximate the cost of that, job? The dollar amount?
about 25, $28 million.
Okay,
It was an addition renovation. Which portion was it?
So the right is, the offices, this smaller building, there's no addition out for the offices. They did do, say, like, yes, they did have some money left over, which they asked to do additional work. during-
yeah, no, I just wanted to make sure the committee knew that the value of the it's a high value project.
Is that footprint on that project smaller or larger than ours? Smaller. And we have a larger footprint, a little more elbow room.
You seem to have a little more room around, I mean, lot line with the students there, the fence.
Yeah.
On the back side of that building, it was probably 12 feet. Jim's point about doing windows, one lift at a time.
Right.
After the dollar, let's get in. Students are walking 12 feet beyond it. We're up several stories, windows, roofs. So it was challenging, but no incidents, no injuries.
Great. Obviously, the logistics are a challenge, but what do you see as a challenge and any other opportunities for this project?
It goes to your list.
Yeah,
Mhm.
you know, we've been out, so the team has been out here. I mean, the exterior facade, cupola repairs, you know, depending on what the backbone of it is. I mean, the wood seems like it's been out for a while. Obviously, the building's older, so that's one. We hit on the windows. We're stressing the windows because we have a lot of experience in renovations and issues with windows. So, that's another one that we keyed on, Mark's been on, we're working on another project right now. An issue came to touched on it. I don't know, that's all I saw in the drawings, Mark. I know you.
I mean-
Sorry, that's critical.
Going through the drawings, I mean, pretty much, a lot of it's pretty standard. The one thing I saw that I really didn't dig into in looking at the drawings is your gym floor. I noticed the gym floor, portion of it, you have structural metal stud framing with looks like plywood on top of it, and then you're pouring concrete across the top of it. So I haven't had a chance to dig into that yet to look to see if there's a different alternative. Because you also have where it shows the styrofoam and stuff that you're pouring the concrete all over.
Yeah, that's the existing band room in the high school, so it's a tiered
Yes.
assembly space. So yeah, I don't recall the exact detail, but definitely a concrete topping, metal stud, framed fill within that tiered band area. And yeah, I would stress that any concerns or recommendations, as you've been mentioning, be brought up early in the process. You know, we're not too proud to say our way of doing it is the best way, especially if there's potential for cost savings, time savings, efficiency. Please bring those suggestions to the table.
It's part of once we get it, we go in and we get everything open through the demo. That's pretty much the walk, going in and making sure of everything that's in there in the way it is. Make sure it's timely and the best way to put it back together. Because there are different ways, different methods. So it's just a matter of what we have in place that we find.
It's one other item that you get touched early on, basic restoration, again, we got the components, our some selection, a lot into who with it based on their experience.
Chris, to your point too, we typically, on each job, like our focus on quality control relates back to like the Army Corps of Engineers 3 phases. So we do start every activity 4 or 6 weeks prior with a prep meeting that involves design team, owner's representation, our subs, and the manufacturer's representation, so that we can review those details and maybe something can be done a little bit differently, or something has changed where we may be able to be a little bit more efficient in the construction. So that takes place for every activity on site.
Can I ask a follow-up?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
No.
No.
I know.
Next.
Make sure the protocol. You know, when we designed this project, the existing high school was all still intact. And it wasn't until the bid period where that got taken down and we were able to see the facade. We made some changes in addenda to pick up on what we found. I'm curious, was your masonry subcontractor out here, and did they look at this building during the bid period?
So,
Yes, they definitely did the project. They came out on the additional site visits.
Okay,
yes, our guy was mining restoration, because. Something. Yeah, that's right.
Yes.
So he's out several times.
okay, great. Thank you.
So instead of follow, we look at opportunities from schedule as well as looking specifically when you're talking about renovation is how can we be more efficient to getting this done? So those are the type of things we were looking for as far as efficiencies. Obviously, everyone does better if you finish earlier. Okay, and you don't want to have that race to the end if you can avoid it. So by being proactive, as Mark said, with laying out 4 to 5 weeks ahead of time with our QC plan, as Mark and Tony mentioned, having our schedule and understanding those long leads, those are the type of things you look to take advantage of on areas you can get ahead.
Thank you.
Jeff?
My question is about staffing, and just tell us about how you're going to staff up this project. It was probably part of your presentation too. And also, do you guys have regular job meetings with the clients and architects, weekly, monthly, or how does that work?
So I'd be the project manager, not on site full time, but as required a lot of the time, or would be our lead superintendent, supported by engineer. We have safety department, weekly safety meetings, safety inspections, safety reports. Mark and his team would also be on the project, and do field quality control visits and reports. We will have project meetings on with subcontractors, especially design team, the owners. We do a monthly report that captures all that with the subs. What's going on, schedule updates, where we are, what our buys, change orders, if any. That's submitted monthly. You guys, and whatever you guys tell us, we need access. So, we're right down the road. Each of us touched on, we're less than 5 miles down the road. We have the office staff that supports all our field staff. And we have some people that kind of live in the neighborhood that drive by every day. So I'm sure Jim, we keep an extra set of eyes on it, but we're comfortable with the staff.
So the superintendent would be here every day, all day. Welcome.
We also have a web-based project management program that we get access to. So if people, whoever you want to have access, can look at things from RFIs, requests for information, any pending change orders or any other safety reports, whatever we put up there, whoever you want can have access to it 24/7.
Thank you.
Site pictures, that type of thing. So we try to be as transparent as possible.
Is it Procore that you use? No. Do you have,
Project site.
is that your program?
No.
Okay.
Right. Yeah, it started out as Prologue once upon a time and evolved into
Got it.
project site.
We hear new names every week, so.
Yeah.
We'll do all our submittals through there and everything.
Okay.
else, so it'll make it a lot easier.
Because we have somebody on staff too that supports that with our internal team, our subcontractors, our design team and owners rep. So he's available to shoot out to your office, come here, meet on site or jump on a Zoom to help with the process.
Can I ask you another question? What does KBE stand for?
It was the first initials of the initial owners. It was called Kowski Brown Edsel.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yep. Why do you, sort of in summation, why do you believe you should be selected as a general contractor for this project, and what sets you apart from your competition?
That puts our experience in this type of construction. One thing I can tell you that no one else can say, we're the only contractor in the state of Connecticut with ocean partnerships because of our exemplary safety record and our low rating that's used. We have had 8 ocean partnerships to date. There's not a single contractor in the state of Connecticut that has at least had one. So we pride ourselves on our safety because everyone needs to get home safe. It's got to be a safe work environment. What an ocean partnership is that we invite ocean to our sites. They come to do training and they come with our safety director on new techniques. Something came out, it's not new, but it's a number of years ago, the really concern over the silica dust has really, been, I guess you want to call it the new asbestos, if you would. So how do you handle that when almost everything you're cutting on a site has some form of silica possibly in it, like brick, concrete, stone? What's the best method to use? So, 10 years ago, no one worried about it and just cut everything with nothing. So now what's the best way to deal with that? And it comes from different things, from fall protection to whatever. So our guys are all trained on whatever is the latest safety issues that are out there. And again, it's something we take pride in as a company. Plus, we're local. We're right here. We've been in Farmington for 25 years. And we'd like to do a job in our hometown right down the road. It's just something, that based upon our experience, and, as you can tell, there's no fresh faces in front of you here. We all but we had a slide that showed the number of years, and like, holy crap. But I've been with the company for 30 years, 20,
Thanks, Bob.
30 years. There we go.
24 years.
28 years, 30 years, 18 years, Mark's the baby at 18 years with the company. So, This is why I think we stand out from competition, because you have this type of tenure and the type of experience we can bring to a project like yours.
Thank you.
Any other questions we'd like to ask?
Peter, could I just ask a follow-up question?
Absolutely.
On, and it's probably in your presentation, but just quickly for the committee. One of the things that we just want to make sure, and I knew it was in your packet of information, but could you talk a little bit about jobs, a couple more jobs of that the project, the building's old and the size of the project, the dollar amount, just your experience of being the GC on that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, started was, these are of similar size. Some a little bit larger, some maybe a little bit smaller, but had a lot of the same aspects that this job has. From renovation, active campus, full demolition of the interior, some sort of preservation of some sort of historical element. Each one of these projects had a lot of those in there. And they range from, this is a theater at Sacred Heart University, which Tony was the lead on. It was right in the middle of, right off their campus, but right in the middle of the campus. There was no parking, there was nothing. It was a logistical nightmare, to be very honest with you. But it came out gorgeous. This is Connecticut College Shane Library. I don't know if you've ever seen Shane Library. It was
I've been there.
1960s type concrete bunker, very ugly building. We cut a slice through the middle of the building and replaced all the windows while the library was still open. Okay, if again, logistically it was very difficult. They had a rare book section that had temperature and humidity sensors in there that a couple degrees in any direction, we had a problem. So it was constantly monitoring that. Again, college students are actually worse than high school students, okay, a little more brazen. So keeping them out of the construction areas and keeping it going, very interesting project. This is the one that Mark was just talking about with his section on Hood College with Memorial Hall. We just finished this project. This had a full renovation and it's probably a little younger than your building, but not by a lot. But full window replacement, all of that. And that's where we found the different width of the structure with the windows. The exterior of the building looked exactly the same. But once you started peeling it apart, you realize that where the bricks stopped and started was completely different. That's why we went ahead, took all the windows out, came up with 3 or 4 details, so they got into the drawings early and got fabricated the right way, so there wasn't any rework to be done. So this has a lot of similarities. Tony was the lead on Caner Tech. It's in Waterbury, a little bit bigger, probably a lot bigger than this project, but had a lot of the same aspects with high school campus active. We were actually doing work in classroom areas with students in classes on the other side, so it was even more. I think there's another slide.
Yeah, and Jim, just to add why you're talking about those, like we present all, we've done 13 tech schools, very similar, major renovation, over 51% renovation in additions.
While the kids were there.
A lot of kids were in school, from anywhere from 50 to 78 million, 75 million, very expensive.
Do you meet your budget?
Yes. There's one thing that we pride ourselves in is meeting budgets and meeting time. Our parent company way back was Conover Construction, and it was all retail. And retail, like schools, you have to at certain times you need to open, and there's no flexibility with that. So that's basically what our scheduling program and QC program is built upon. So we bring that to all of our projects.
Just a question that shot in my mind, Health Tech project, we finished 9 months ahead of schedule, gave back quite a bit, savings dollars for the project. Sure. That doesn't really happen on projects. So, you know, other
A good start.
Just Chris, do you have any additional questions? Russ, Kat? Nothing?
No, I'm good.
You're good? Okay, thank you, gentlemen. This
Thank
was
you.
very.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Had Devin pause it. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Appreciate your time.
Talk to you later.
Thank you.
back to its former glory. We can then wrap up with answering any questions you may have. I have with me here our team who will be working with the town: John Tracy, Austin Godbolt, Sean Gothier, and Jennifer Choquette. In 2007, I started Scope Construction. Unbeknownst at the time, it was the beginning of the Great Recession. We persevered through those tough times by being competitive and delivering excellence. Our breakthrough project came a few years later when we were awarded the Barney Library project here in town. Barney Library is an historic building originally constructed in 1918, not that much older than the 1928 building. I was very much involved in the day-to-day operations of that complex project, much the same as I will be for you on this project. There are numerous similarities between the two: elevator addition, electrical, mechanical, plumbing, and fire protection system upgrades, hazardous materials abatement, window replacement, and brick restoration, to mention a few. Incidentally, many of the subcontractors that participated in Barney Library are slated for the 1928 building, a testament to our strong professional relationships. The Barney project went so well that your librarian of so many years, Jay Johnston, recommended us to replace the elevator and create a new makerspace in the library next door. Through the years, we've been involved with many other projects that are similar to the 1928 building. I can elaborate on each of them during the questions and answers later if you like. Those projects include the oldest building on CCSU, Central Connecticut State University campus, the Lawrence J. Davidson Hall building, built in 1925, formerly known as the Administration Building. East Hartford Town Hall, built in 1936. University of Connecticut Stores, Wilbur Cross Building, built 1938. Raymond Library, East Hartford, 1885. Prior to Scope Construction, I participated in The renovations to Old Boston College High School in Boston, built in 1863. Emergency renovations to Long Lane School in Middletown, 1868. Additions and renovations to 3 schools in Britain. Lincoln School, built 1871. Vance Elementary School, built 1926, and the North End School, built in 1932. Many of these old buildings are classical style Georgian architecture, similar to your old high school. We bring those experiences for benefit to you and the town. I'd like to give you some insight into our team. John Tracy, Southington. John and I met in 2010 while Scope Construction was working as a subcontractor to O&G Industries. John was responsible for 3 floors of science room renovations at New Fairfield High School. He was the on-site project manager for O&G. The project was a summer slammer, as we call it, demanding its subcontractors to meet a ridiculously aggressive schedule, all without jeopardizing quality or safety. I was quite impressed with John. I was unaware, however, that he had similar feelings of me and our young company. In early 2012, after he came to the conclusion that the grass really was greener, he came on board. So as we approach our 15th year of knowing and working together, I can honestly say that I know of no other person than John that knows how to actually build. For that reason, he is the best for this team, and he will be the on-site in charge of the field, directing the work. Jennifer Choquette Canton. Jen is the oil in our machine. Jen has been with us for 8 years. She keeps our operation moving smoothly. Jen is our office manager and contract administrator. Her roles involve project accounting, project startup and closeout, as well as maintaining project record. Austin Godbolt Newington. Austin has been with us for 6 years. Austin and I work closely with one another. He has proven his skills to review submittals, contract clarifications, such as RFIs, procurement, and change management. He's a very organized individual who is an asset to this team. He will be on site. Sean Gothier, Plainville. Sean has been with Scope for 2 years and is currently finishing up the new Farmington High School and Board of Ed central offices next door. Scope is the general trades contractor on that project, and Sean is our on-site project engineer. Sean is meticulous with quality control, safety monitoring, and record keeping, such as keeping the as-built documents current. At this point, I'm going to turn this over to John, which would like to share our approach to the project, of which afterwards he'll hand it back to me and I can discuss a little more about myself.
Okay, one thing, we're gonna, we'll let John go to his presentation, but I think we'd like to do our questions first, okay?
That's good.
And then, we'll be more than happy to.
Hopefully that some of the questions will
Yeah.
come out when we ask the questions, because we only have a certain limited amount of time.
Okay. All right, so, I'll start the question and then each member of the, committee will answer questions, okay?
Yes.
All right, here we go. Please elaborate on your firm's experience as a general contractor on projects of similar size, scope, and complexity.
Okay. As far as similar size, adjusted for inflation, some of the projects that I spoke of are not quite as large in dollar volume as this. But the East Hartford Town Hall, we replaced, which was more complex, 70 windows, which were all hot with asbestos and PCBs. And we restored the exterior facade involving repointing of the brick. Why that was more complex is that the town hall was occupied at the time we were doing that, as opposed to here. Raymond Library would be a similar project, kind of as Barney, all these old libraries are kind of similar with elevator additions, and window replacements. Matter of fact, when we were on East Hartford Library, I think one of the competitors on this particular project was the general contractor on that job. However, we were the owner's rep because a prior project we did at Raymond Library, it was a positive experience for the town. The new project was beyond our reach as far as scope and complexity, but the town wanted us to represent them on their side of the table.
Okay, so you were the subcontractor or the general contractor?
On that job,
On
we
that.
were once a general contractor, okay,
Yeah.
on a much smaller job,
Yep.
but that went well where the town hired us as their owner's rep. So
Right.
we were a resource to the town along with the architect.
And the East Hartford project, general contractor?
East Hartford, that was the town hall. We were
Yeah,
GC.
right, right.
Yukon Wilbur Cross building, absolutely drop dead gorgeous, interior renovation, very sensitive, to, all the, I mean, it's a historic building on the inside and, that was an occupied, I mean, that job was finishing, 2 reading rooms of soaring ceilings and putting in some elaborate sound attenuation ceiling sprays and restoring the grand hall that connected these 2 reading rooms. Again, all the while students are walking through and faculties are walking through. And all those projects also included upgrades to life safety, sprinklers and whatnot. Additions and renovations to the 3 schools in New Britain. This was when I was employed as an employee of the Tomaso Group. And they were construction managers. And I was responsible for those 3 particular schools, which are much larger in size than this school. And I'm guessing that some of the Vance and North End Elementary School were probably built by the same Salvatore Mazzata that built your high school, because they're about the same time and they look the same. And but I don't know. I looked it up and I couldn't find out. Again, all of those schools had asbestos in them, opening up old walls and discovering that there's hidden asbestos in there and being conscientious of abating those items, which would be unforeseen conditions.
Okay. Anyone want to follow up on my question? Okay, Chris?
Sure. Can you give the committee a sense of what your current workload is and your capacity of the firm to take on a project of this scope and size?
Our current backlog is 1 project in New Haven. That is about hovering around a $10 million project. We are 70 to 75% complete on it. It is 100% managed by a project manager that sits across from me and our on-site superintendent. No one here is involved in that project other than me. So it fits in quite perfectly, to be honest with you. As far as the size of the project, it doesn't concern me. It's very manageable. And
Okay. Yeah, and just to clarify, use the term backlog. I mean, is that a current project? Is that your only current project? I mean, use of the word backlog confuses me a little. It
Okay.
implies that you're
It's-
behind and you don't have the.
oh, no.
Okay.
No, we're on schedule.
Okay, yeah.
And we're scheduled to finish that project in probably April.
Okay, no, I just want to be clear. Yeah, thank you.
So, yeah, other than that, we have recently finished up our major projects, including Farmington High School right behind us.
Yeah.
I guess we could add the small, in the Board of Ed building, which I think we have a couple tack boards to hang there and then we're done.
Mhm.
A small part of that particular project.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chris. Joe?
All right. It's important for the committee this project to be done on time and on budget. So my question is twofold. I'll do the first part. What's your firm's approach to accomplishing the project schedule and controlling the cost of the work? Like, what's your change order process control? That's the first part.
Well, I don't want to keep the entire, John, if you want to address that, but if I can, just to start it off with, all change, in our opinion, starts with a question regarding the contract documents. So if there is something that is not clear, we ask the question and engage the architect. And depending on that particular response, that may or may not be the genesis of a contract change. So that's where the process starts as far as change. And then from there,
So your other concern was, then we mitigate that change, working collaboratively with the architect, yourselves and us to find the best solutions for whatever that situation might be. So it's a pretty broad question. But it started, Scott said, with an RFI or a proposal. It might be your change that you notice something you want to change. And then the process begins. We get our quotes and go through the standard process of vetting all the proposals and all. As far as the schedule, I was going to go into it, but I'll speak to it.
well, he hasn't asked about the scheduling yet. He's only talking
Well,
about
he
the change.
did. He talked about schedule and
Okay.
and money. So I've engaged in the project, learned the project, and there's 4 or 5 I'm going to call little sub projects, if you will, in this project that are critical to the schedule. And just to speak off the top of my head with that, the windows are a key element to this project. They tie into the roofing in about a dozen and a half locations where we have to raise the sills in order to meet the elevation of our new roof and the counterflash and all. So that coordination is very critical up front and getting these windows released as fast as we can, because the second aspect is that vault. And I need 3 windows to be installed before that vault can be built. So the windows are driving the vault. The gym to me is a very critical part of this schedule. In my opinion, tight site. We're going to be working with a site contractor, phase 1 site contractor that we have to collaborate with, and hopefully it's the same contractor for us. So storage and access is going to be very critical to this. To me, if we get in, we abate that gym, we infill that slab, we now have a pretty decent sized laydown area for our tools and our materials as we procure them. Procurement's big, getting everything on site that we need. Thing that I have to really put my hands around is the cupola. We plan on staging that whole cupola now. Before I commit to saying how we're going to do that, we know how we're going to build the staging, but when we do it, will it go before the gym roof or after the new gym roof? That I want to engage my subs with to see what's more feasible and what's better productivity wise. Hey, get that new roof on, protect it, build our staging, or hey, no, let's just get the cupola done, get it out of the way, and then we can worry about that. So things like that are I've been diving into, and we got to refine.
That's good, because the second part of the question would be, what are the anticipating unforeseen, issues with the project? So I'm glad you're diving into what you think would be an unforeseen issue that you need to address early.
Good. If I can,
Certainly. Go
wrap
ahead.
up with the changes. If anything smells like it's going to be a change, we create in essence a PCO, which is just a number. It's a folder on the computer, which is called proposed change order. It may end up being 0, may end up being an add, may end up being a credit. Those numbers are on a PCO log that we constantly update and share as far as meeting with the owners and subcontractors on a basis. So it's a dynamic live document that starts at the beginning of the job, and then when it's all done, that's that's how we manage job, whether it be an RFI initiated change or an owner requested change or an architect requested change or a contractor requested change. That's how we manage change.
Okay, thank you. Any other unforeseen things that's tickling your brain there?
Not off the top of my head.
All right.
Well, let me tell you a little nightmare story about, quickly, the Vance, oh, yes, it was the Vance Elementary School that we did, or I did in New Britain, where we had to remove the old auditorium. It was kind of like a cafetorium where they had a stage. And so we had to knock that, demo that stage. And it looked like it was wood, but underneath the wood was concrete. So we jackhammered up the concrete and that was falling into the hole underneath it, unbeknownst to the workers that were doing it, that was loaded with piping from, the early 1900s that was wrapped in asbestos insulation, and it got everywhere. And so we're going to be on the lookout for that type of stuff on this beauty.
Thank you very much.
If I can still, Mike, for one second, there is one aspect of the job that can't say there's going to be change, but it's going to be interesting, because I don't know if I've really ever done it, is coordination, the MEP coordination, and the existing systems that are to remain. And we have to meld that all together and make everything work. Not saying there's going to be change, but that's going to be interesting. Piping left in place, ductwork left in place, and working all our new systems around it. That'll be a challenge.
Thank you very much.
Thanks. Dan?
Thank you. Good afternoon. You're aware of what's at the top of the hill because you're working up there. So you know that the high school is there. We're very proud of it. Been a long time in coming and we're excited. There's a lot of activity at the top of that hill during the daytime. Could you elaborate? Heard some comments that were appropriate to this question, but could you speak to your experience in working adjacent to active school grounds while school is in session, and what your thoughts are about protecting foot traffic and vehicular traffic around the tennis courts, which are in the rear and are going to draw spectators, and they're going to draw students walking from the athletic department at the high school to that rear area.
You want me to handle that? Well, Sean here, by the way, was our on-site guy up there. But and so we have worked on this particular campus, as you just said, with that school being in session while this was in session. The majority of our work is within the building itself. So we would first and foremost create a site logistics plan and review that with Russ and other people at the town, fire marshal, et cetera. So in the event that fire trucks need to get in or and they should. So the safety of the students is of utmost importance. We may schedule deliveries that may be impeding in that particular area around a certain time. All the things that we basically had to do here.
One thing that we're very close to hopefully solving and wrapping up is using Iapaluccio for our work also. That would tie their phase one contract with you into us and make it a lot easier to collaborate and coordinate that site. They have that full scope of site other than the 5 feet without outside the building and our facade work. So if we can make our deal with them, it'd be ideal for this project.
Can you talk about some control measures that you have considered to put in place, fencing, things of that nature that is going to protect?
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's odd in the fact that Iapaluccio is controlling that site. So if I go and put up a fence and they say, no, you're in my way. So that's why we want to engage them and then we can establish a defined parking area, fencing around those tennis courts, walk areas to get back and forth and contain our vehicles, connexes and all in that back, what you want to call it, back left area where your parking lot's going to be developed. We have to work with them since you hold their contract on that.
I've noticed that while school's in session, it's extremely important to have flaggers, or at least somebody at that major intersection while the school buses and the student drop off is happening around that 2:30 time. We would encourage and advise all of our trades and deliveries to accommodate the early morning and the afternoon schedule. Deliveries between, I believe, it's at 7:30, 8:30 window, and then again in the afternoon are a challenge. So to avoid those would be great. But again, having a simple flagger or two is an extreme help that I've noticed with ongoing with building the new high school.
Our plan would be to submit a plan, have everybody review and approve it, and that would be the plan. And then that plan can change, and it will, for whatever particular reason, and that will become the next latest plan, with all the input from all the players involved on that site.
Thank you. Thanks. Sherry?
You had talked about, obviously, the logistics are challenges. What other challenges do you see and opportunities for this project?
Well, this is an old building that has hazardous materials in it that I don't believe all those materials are being abated. This is still going to have, possibly, I haven't studied in detail the documents, but I believe that we're identifying asbestos containing materials. So if there are other materials that haven't been identified, that could be a challenge. Working with existing systems that are, God knows how, maybe 1926 years old. I don't know how many moves, adds, and changes have occurred over the years to the mechanical and electrical systems as well as the structure itself. There's not a significant amount of structural work I see happening other than the new, elevator addition and whatnot. There is a load-bearing wall that we need to be shored to allow for the installation of new steel. And a challenge that we ran into at the Barney Library project was the contract. I mean, the design called for us to put, in essence, a building on top of the old 1918 building, and that didn't quite work. We discovered through the shop drawing process and exploring that it was a 12-inch thick brick wall and etc. So on the we worked with the town, the library, and came up with solutions, and we worked through them regarding which affected the schedule as well as the budgets. We're very conscientious, or I am in particular, and so are these guys, as far as money and schedule. So it's dear to me.
I have a follow-up.
Go ahead, Chris.
We designed this project while the existing high school was intact. It wasn't until the bid period that demolition started and we were able to address in addenda some of the items that we were visibly able to see after the high school around the 1928 building came down. I'm curious if you, and perhaps more importantly, your masonry subcontractor, if you could tell us who that is, and if they were out to the site post demolition to see with their own eyes what they were bidding on in terms of the restoration work.
I cannot answer that. Our contractor proposed at this point would be Connecticut Mason Contractors. We have not, John has visited the site and walked around. But we certainly would engage that mason to visit, should we be the selected contractor, he'll be one of the first contractors we bring out to the job site and study your documents. And hopefully there's nothing glaring, but he can only bid on what he saw at the time of the bid, as well as us.
I know you did a pretty good job. Must have been an old corridor or something up high. showing the tooling out of all that block that's sticking out and all. I noticed that when I walked and you picked all that up on the, one thing we have to work into our scope of work in our contracts is salvaging the brick. And the demo guy's gonna be demoing and opening, but we have to figure out who's gonna take and stockpile that, who's gonna clean it up. That's a mason, if that's a demo guy, but that's not one of my to-do buy list is making sure we salvage all the brick that we take when opening. I think it's a 3, I don't know the direction, west windows, opposite the chimney.
So when John is referring to our demo guy, he's referring to our selective demolition contractor, not the contractor that knocked the building down, which actually incidentally may be the same guy.
Got it.
But very conscientious that we gotta save that material and save what we can to patch, blend.
Thank you.
Good evening. I have a couple questions. One is, I think, John, you're gonna be the job manager, project manager? Super. And you'll be here every day?
Every day.
Good. And did want to describe the rest of the team to us and the commitment?
Sure. I'm going to be very actively involved in this project, as the owner of the company, and as a neighbor. I want to preserve my reputation, so to say. So anything that deals with money and schedule and quality, I'm right here on, where this is the team. Okay. Now Jennifer, is, seamless in, and I hate to say it, but paperwork, but she does it so well. Certified payrolls, contracting, insurance requirements for all of our subs, making sure that all of those documents are in the right, have been reviewed and they're in the right files, et cetera, and which would include in the field and to, for our use. To accomplish the project management aspects of this particular project, I'm going to need some help, which is where Austin comes into play. He's excellent at putting proposals together for my review and ultimately for your consideration. What else do you handle there? Submittals?
Sorry. More or less, I'm gonna be our team's information liaison. I handle all the submittals, RFI, change events, daily communication with the architect, the owner, our subs, all the way down to a carpenter in the field. Yeah.
Good.
Which is the nuts and bolts of it, because
Yeah.
without all that paperwork, we can't build it right.
So he and I are tight. Those two are tight. Okay. And again, Sean has spent the past 2 years on the project next door. We were responsible on that job for, I shouldn't say responsible, but we took care of a lot of the safety requirements and job site cleanliness on that project. So Sean will be on the site every day. Is that, Jack?
Yeah, yep,
Question?
yep. Thank you.
Chris?
Okay, yep, and it's time for your closing argument. Why should you be selected as general contractor for this position, and what sets you apart from your competition?
So some background on me. I'm a lifelong resident of Avon. My wife, Jen, not this Jen, and I have raised 3 children in Avon who all attended Avon Public Schools, including Jen and me. My children attended Churchery School back in the day, for those that are familiar with that. We remain dear to Farmington, despite in 1983, Farmington High upset Avon High's perfect football season in our last game at home and our chances at the state title. We are friends of your community. We shop, dine, play, and volunteer in Farmington. We enjoy membership at the Country Club of Farmington. We eat at your excellent restaurants when we can, and we miss Cugino's, Apricots, and the Gristmill. When I was 12 years old, I'd ride my bicycle down Route 10 to the country club so I could earn a few bucks caddying. Golf pro John Murphy taught me to swing a club. As I grew older, I worked on the greens crew at Tungus Plantation. Today, I'm active with the Farmington Libraries. I feel like I'm part of this community. We would very much appreciate the honor of being entrusted to carry this project forward for the next generation to enjoy. And we really want the job.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, folks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. So we're gonna go through some the invoice looks like you gotta take care of, and then from there we'll go right into executive session and then break at that point.
Yep.
Kathy?
Perfect.
Okay, I don't have my motions.
I'll do it.
All right, Joe, can you give me a motion for G1? please?
G1 is to approve the attached invoice for Silver Petroselli and Associates in the amount of $7,500.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor state by saying aye.
Aye.
Passes. Joe, G2.
G2 is to approve the attached invoice from Colliers Engineering Design in the amount of $9,368.50.
Oh,
Motion.
no.
Second.
Yes.
Got a second? Any discussion? All those in favor state by saying aye.
Aye.
Joe, D3.
I'll make it easy for
Great.
I make a motion to approve the attached invoice. for Innovative Engineering Services in the amount of $563.04.
Second.
All right, any discussion? Okay, all those in favor state by saying aye.
Aye.
All right, and we'll need a motion to go into.
I make a motion to adjourn to executive session to review and discussion of responses for general contractor bids for 1928 building renovations.
And the members,
The members included would be here, the staff or the two staff people and our members sitting at the
there
table.
we go, look at that. All right,
All right.
and can I have a second on that?
Second.
All those in favor state by saying aye.
Aye.
We're in executive
Okay.
session and, oh, sorry.
No, no, I'm
Okay, we're out of executive session at 6:26. We are going to go to agenda item G5.
Yes.
And I need that motion read, please.
Thank you.
Dan?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I make a motion to select KBE Building Corporation, the lowest qualified bid, as the general contractor for the 1928 building renovations in the amount of $12,775,000.
Second.
Any discussion? I just like to say that I'd like to thank both companies for coming in and giving their presentations. And they all gave good presentations, and I think this committee had some great ideas on how we came to this conclusion, and it's a good step for Farmington moving forward on this project. And on that note, if anyone else has anything they want to say.
I just want to thank the town staff. We are well served as a
Yes.
committee
We are.
by the town staff, Kathy and Russ and everyone else in town, Kat, who worked so hard for us to prepare the information that we had tonight and to set up this meeting. So my thanks, I'm sure it's shared by everyone.
Absolutely.
Very much.
Thank you.
They
Stan?
keep it moving, that's for sure, with excellent results. Okay, on that vote, we'd be ready to take a vote.
Yes.
Okay, all those in favor state by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries.
All right, we'll go to agenda item G6. Make a motion to authorize the town manager and professional partnership subcommittee to negotiate and sign a contract with the selected firm for the 1928 building renovations.
Second.
Any discussion?
So we'll be in
Yeah.
touch with
Good.
it's Joe and Chris,
Chris.
and we'll be in touch once we get things organized, and then we'll work on the contract and work on getting that signed.
Excellent. Okay, all those in favor, vote by stating aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
G7, make a motion to cancel the November 12th, 2024, 1928 building committee meeting.
Second.
Discussion, okay, so do we have our calendar? When do we?
That was one thing, Chris, I forgot to mention. When do you think the next time would be the appropriate time to meet?
I hadn't given it any thought. So before you Yeah,
To be determined?
yeah, I think let's see how quick the town can work through contracts. And then determine at that point
Okay,
if and when we need to meet.
okay.
Yeah, there's
It-
nothing.
It's gonna be a
there's
little bit of
Nothing I'm
time,
forecasting that we're gonna need to meet to discuss, so,
right?
yeah, just updates probably.
Yeah. Do you think the next time that the committee would be meeting is when, after the works begins?
I think we'll likely have a pre-construction meeting, shortly after contracts are signed. And probably following that meeting would be a good time to update the building committee on
Okay.
what was discussed at the pre-construction meeting, because we'll talk in more depth about schedule and safety and
Okay,
all those particulars, lay down areas, yeah.
okay,
Then we'll get into our monthly meeting.
okay.
We're gonna have to approve bills.
Bills and go through the schedule and make sure, okay.
Yeah.
So you're probably talking at least probably a month, right?
December.
December, yeah,
Likely,
Thanksgiving.
yeah, okay,
By the time that everything rolls around, like say we meet in December.
Okay.
Maybe the first December meeting, so it's not away from the holiday season.
okay, we'll be in touch. Okay,
Yeah.
good.
Okay, all right,
Mr. Chairman,
go ahead.
I want to amend my comments to add Devon to the thank yous. He's not in the room,
well,
but
he's
that
the
was
director, isn't he in there directing?
He's
it?
back there. Well,
Right?
There
check is in the mail.
The grand wizard, it's the wizard behind it, pulling on the string.
Exactly.
Francis Ford Coppola.
Devin's actually running the entire
All
show.
right now.
We know
That-
I gotta be nice so I can zoom in when I get the floor.
Yeah, so you get your-
Otherwise, there'll be a glitch in the connection. I don't know what happened here.
Get your close up. All right, we need to vote on that. So all in favor to cancel November 12th, state by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Any other business? Okay, and I just need a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? I'll just say this is a big leap, a big day for this committee. We now pick the contractor and, let's move forward on this and have a great project ahead of us. I look forward to, working with all you even more closely once we get into the weeds of this thing, but, let's go, Farmington. All right.
Very, very exciting.
Yeah,
Very
very
exciting.
exciting. And thanks again for all your help. All right. We're adjourned.
Thank you.